Well, guys, we have a lot to talk about this week in hockey. Yes, round 3 has ended. The Stanley Cup finals are starting tomorrow. But before then, we're going to recap what happened in round 3. We're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about the officiating. We're going to talk about some things that need to be talked about. First of all, we'll go over our series recaps. We're gonna do all of that. We're gonna talk about some takeaways. We're also going to do a quick preview of the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll talk about that in the second half of the video. But for now, let's go over some news to start. The passing of Tom Kurvers. He passed away a couple of days ago to lung cancer, and our sympathies go out to his family. He was a great hockey player and a great person, a great hockey person, a great hockey mind. He'll be greatly missed, Tom Kurvers. I wish their family the best in this tough time. The officiating. They really do have a state-of-the-art kind of technology, because you see their tablet here, it's just filled with technical difficulties, and I'm convinced that Corey Perry is just public enemy number 1 in referee land, because Chris Lee, and especially him, he has been tough on the Montreal Canadiens, and Corey Perry especially. I'll talk about the officiating near the end of the video today. There are just way too many instances of infractions that are just plainly missed, and I'll talk about what needs to change going further into hockey and into next year, even into the finals. Okay, let's talk about a couple memes here. This Thanos meme and the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens heading off to the finals. It cost a lot along the way. Dominic Ducharme, Corey Perry's blood, Jeff Petry's eyes, Jake Evans getting bowled over by Mark Scheifele. They've gone through so much to get here, and it's truly amazing that they did. Alright, so we're going to recap Vegas and Montreal first here. And this series went 4-2 for Montreal. And for perspective, that is exactly what I predicted. Montreal in 6. When I made that prediction, was I joking? To be frank, no, I wasn't. I wasn't making a meme prediction. I do think Montreal this year has gone through so much adversity, and there's no reason why they don't win. And I believe Montreal has a solid chance to win it all, even win the cup here, after the performance I've seen them show in this series against Vegas. Alright, so the power play for the Golden Knights, 9.3%. That will not get you anywhere in the Stanley Cup playoffs. No team will be able to win with that. Montreal, 20.9%. It did score a couple goals in this series. Penalty killing for Vegas, 71.8%, and Montreal, 93.5%. That's amazing. One of the best penalty killing we've seen in playoff history. We'll see if that keeps up in the finals. Top 3 point getters for Vegas: Carlson, 16 points. Alex Pietrangelo, 12 points. Max Pacioretty, 11 points. Top 6 really dried up in this series, so to be honest, the numbers didn't really change much for Vegas from last video to today. That's for sure. For Montreal, Tyler Toffoli has 14 points, Nick Suzuki 13 points. Cole Caulfield really showed up in this series with quite a few goals, and quite a few good goals, important ones For goaltending, Marc-Andre Fleury, he'll be ruining that giveaway in game number 3. That's for sure. Robin Lehner. I think he played pretty well, Robin Lehner. He had some chirps on Twitter, some good words on Twitter, and in all the adversity, he still stays classy, and I like Robin Lehner. As much as we don't like Vegas and their fans and their Twitter account, which is just a very interesting place for sure, Robin Lehner is definitely a wholesome part of this Vegas franchise, and I do want to see him continue playing here. Carey Price, 12-5. You know how good he was, 934 save percentage. Yes, I can see he stole the series, but at the same time, Montreal played great in front of him, and they put on a defensive clinic. Okay, so in game 1, it was 4-1 for Vegas. There were chances both ways. Theodore opened the scoring and ended the Habs streak without trailing at 447 minutes and 8 seconds. That's second all-time to the 1960 Montreal Canadiens. Martinez scores early in the second after a big fake shot in front. Huge save by Price on Stone. Caulfield scores his first power play goal. Janmark responds with the goal 53 seconds later. Another big save on Marchessault by Price. Holden made it 4-1. Late saves by Marc-Andre Fleury to keep it that way. In game 2, 3-2 for Montreal. Petrie and Merrill were in. Stevenson was out. Armia scored early. Shots were 10-2 Montreal on the halfway point in the first. Travis Green in the stands. Ironically, after that, fittingly even, Toffoli scored to make it 2-0 after the first. Shots were 12-4 in the period for the Montreal Canadiens. Vegas pushed in the second. Pacioretty hit the post. Carey Price with a huge save. Paul Byron scored late in the third. Pietrangelo responded a minute later to make it 3-1. And scored again with 5:14 left, and the Habs hang on 3-2. So it looked like Vegas had some momentum, but that really didn't carry on much to game 3. Stevenson out, Nosek in. Ducharme was unable to coach due to COVID-19. Luke Richardson was in for the coaching, and he would be for the final 4 games. Great start for Vegas. Shots were 17-3 in the first. Waugh scored in the second on his 22nd shot for Vegas. Caulfield responded 38 seconds later to tie on the Habs' 5th shot. McNabb with huge hits. Shots were 30-8 for Vegas after 2. Pietrangelo scored early in the third. Chances for the Habs late, and Anderson scored off the turnover by Fleury. And I think that was the turning point of this series, to be really honest with you. Shots were 40-21 for Vegas after regulation. There's a blatant missed high-sticking call in overtime, and Perry was bleeding, and the karma gods, they're real. And Josh Anderson winning the game in overtime. And Montreal wins again when they score 2 or more goals. So amazing for them. I'll talk about the Corey Perry high stick when I talk about the officiating later. That was terrible, but luckily the Canadiens won this game, or else there'd be chaos. That's for sure. So game 4, 2-1 from Vegas in overtime. Lehner started for the first time since game 1 versus Colorado. He made some great saves. Shots were 11-4 for the Habs after the first. Pietrangelo hit the post. Byron scoring late in the second to open the scoring. Some inconsistency from the refs. As you see, the punch on Nick Suzuki by McNabb, and Chris Lee stands behind there. Just very unfortunate officiating, and I do not enjoy that whatsoever. And shots were 20-19 for the Habs in regulation, and McNabb scored in the third, and Waugh scored early in overtime. 2-1, so that looked like the momentum could swing in Vegas' favor. Game 5, 4-1 for Montreal. Fleury starting the game. Another failed power play for Vegas early. Kotkaniemi scored on a rebound to open the scoring. Refs get hit by a puck in the ear. He was going to be alright. Shots were 6 apiece after 20 minutes. Double minor penalty for high sticking was rescinded after review. It was a follow through, and that was a good call. Eric Stahl scored off a great pass from Suzuki to make it 2-0. Caulfield made it 3-0. There were boos from Vegas fans after the period because of their struggling power play. And when that happened, I knew in that moment that Montreal had the momentum. And Pacioretty scored early in the third, but Suzuki scores the empty netter. And what a game by Montreal. Probably their best of the playoffs so far. Game 6, 3-2 for Montreal in overtime. Leonard started. Chances were low early. Weber scored on the power play off Martinez, who broke his stick trying to clear the puck. Smith responded 48 seconds later with a goal. Caulfield scored on a filthy goal to take the lead. Vegas just can't score on the power play. Martinez scored early in the third to tie. Vegas pushes it late. And Lehkonen ends it in overtime. First Canadian team to make the final since 2011, and it was insane in Montreal on Friday. There were some riots in the streets, and I've heard many accounts of people who went to Montreal saying that it was a very scary situation over there. I was hearing that there is some tear gas involved, and I never want to see that. But sometimes people do have to calm down, but I didn't expect the Canadiens fans to be calm at all after what a big win this was. So Montreal is going to the finals, and it's truly a Cinderella story. They've gone through so much, and I'm happy for them. As a Canadian, naturally I'd support a Canadian team, and they have the rhetoric, the narrative now of Canada's team. They've proved the North Division is nothing to be taken lightly. That's for sure. Montreal has a lot of heart, and it's hard to measure it. And we'll see how far they go and if they win it all. Montreal, what a story. Fans must be ecstatic. I am too. For Vegas, power play. That didn't score a goal, 17 opportunities, 0 for 17. Montreal killing 30 straight penalties. So Montreal, if they can carry that momentum against the teams I'm going to talk about in a little bit, in the next series, they'll be golden if Montreal can keep that penalty kill going. Alright, so it's some historic moments here in Canada, and a lot of history made. Alright, so now let's move on to the other series in round 3. Alright, so Tampa and New York. Now I am recording this one a day later than my last recap, Vegas and Montreal. I recorded that yesterday, so it might be a little choppy here. But anyways, Tampa winning this series in 7. What a series it was. Power play for Tampa, 37.7%. The Islanders, 20.4%. Penalty killing for Tampa, 83%. The Islanders, 65.1%. Definitely struggled against Tampa. Top 3 point getters for Tampa Bay, Nikita Kucherov, 27 points in 18 games. Braden Point, 14 goals in 18 games, 20 points. Killorn, 17 points. So Tampa, they've had a very potent offense, and Braden Point scoring goals in 9 straight games. Didn't score a goal in Game 7, but he's second to Reggie Leach, which is definitely a good achievement for him. For the Islanders, the offense wasn't really there. Barzal, 14 points. Bailey, 13 points. Beauvillier, 13 points. Not many goals scored by the Islanders. I believe they only scored 7 in the series, in 7 games. So, they've had trouble scoring. I think that's a big reason why they lost this. But there was also that 8-0 game, which really inflated Tampa's numbers. Alright, so goaltending. Vasilevsky, 12-6. 1.99 goals against average, .936 save percentage. I do think he's probably the best goalie in the NHL right now. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't make many mistakes. Mistakes have been very rare for him. He plays the puck well. He doesn't allow softies very often at all. Covers the puck when he needs to. Plays the puck when he needs to. A very smart goaltender here. For the Islanders, they went with Varlamov for most of the series and most of the playoffs after the first 2 rounds. It was basically all Varlamov. He went 7-7 in the playoffs, 2.56 goals and average .922 save percentage. He was great for the Islanders, kept them in it for as long as he could. Game 7, he played extremely well. Ilya Sorokin, numbers did drop off a little bit because he was a part of that 8-0 defeat. But nonetheless, I think Ilya Sorokin is a good goalie and probably a goalie for the future for the New York Islanders. Game 1 was 2-1 for the Islanders. Penalties early, even first period. Vasilevsky with huge saves. Barzal scored 5-4 off a turnover from the Lightning. Third time the Tampa Bay allowed the first goal. Nice kill by the Islanders to start the third. I really applauded the Islanders' penalty kill to start this series. Pollock scored in the third from the blue line. I think that's the softest goal that Vasilevsky allowed, and that wasn't even that much of a bad goal. Braden Point in the late power play goal with 53 seconds left, and the Islanders hold on in Game 1. In Game 2, it's 4-2 for Tampa. Tampa failing on a 4-3 early. Point gets his 10th goal in the playoffs. Pelech pushes Point to Varlamov. And I'll talk about that kind of stuff later on about the officiating. He injured Varlamov in that play. Sorokin was in. Goaltender interference penalty on Point, which was very confusing. Nelson tied it on the ensuing penalty. 2 fights after the goal. Varlamov back in for period 2. Palat scored the lone goal in the second. Ruda scored his first career playoff goal. Hedman scored later. Barzal made it 4-2. But Tampa holding on there and fights as the game ends. Was a feisty game. In Game 3, 2-1 for Tampa. Big save off Vasilevsky off Palmieri. Then Gord opened the scoring for Tampa. 9-1 when they scoring first. So Tampa, they're probably as good as Montreal in that kind of facet. They restarted well in the second. Clutterbuck scored a greasy goal when Chernak tried to shovel it back to his goaltender. Braden Point scores another one. 19 seconds left in the second. Tampa hangs on. Game 4, 3-2 for the Islanders. Palmieri hit the post early. Varlamov with saves. Another post by the Islanders later. 9-2 for the Islanders. The shots after in the midway point of the first. Komarov's denied on a short-handed breakaway. Bailey scored early in the second to open the scoring. Barzal and Martin scored on rebounds. The third goal was challenged for offside and still counts. Lightning scored 2 and 2:58 in the third period by Point and Johnson, but the Islanders hang on as Pollock makes possibly the save of the year on Ryan McDonough. In Game 5, it was 8-0 for Tampa. Chernak was out. Tampa was 12-0 following a loss in the playoffs in the last 2 years. And they opened the scoring 45 seconds in as Stamkos takes advantage of a bounce. Yanni Gourde scored off a deflection off Green. Killorn then pokes it home to make it 3-0. Varlamov pulled after allowing 3 goals on 16 shots. Not really his fault, but the Islanders really did not play well. Sorokin was in now. First time the Islanders allowed 3 goals in the first period this season, not even just the playoffs. Shots were 19-5 for the Lightning after 1. Multiple penalties by the Islanders in the second period. Only 3 penalties in the last 3 games. Sorokin takes the puck off the collarbone and stays in. He was a big warrior. I think that allowed the Islanders to possibly win Game 6 just because Sorokin stayed in and didn't make Varlamov come back in, because that would have hurt his morale. Stamkos scores his second. Palat and Killorn get deflections to make it 6-0. Barzal gets ejected for cross-checking Ruda late in the second. He got fined for that, $5,000. Braden Point extends his goal streak to 8 with another goal, and Shen scores a lucky one off Eberle to make it 8-0. A reminder that Tampa also scored 8 goals last year in Game 1 versus the Islanders, and Vasilevsky with the shutout. In Game 6, 3-2 for the Islanders in overtime. Chernak was out. Kucherov left the game early trying to hit Barzal. Point extended the goal streak to 9 games to the opening goal. 5-3 in the second for the Islanders, but they didn't score on that. Cirelli scored shortly after to make it 2-0, and that looked like it was going to be it. But Eberle responded with the goal to make it 2-1. Some scrums late because Stamkos was checking the boards. Mayfield scores a filthy old bar down to tie it. Islanders dominating late. Tampa's late power play didn't connect. Beauvillier shows it big time with the overtime winner, 108 in, and the Coliseum was still alive after Game 6. Beer cans thrown on the ice. You won't see that very much at all. And Game 7, not much to say about this one. 1-0 for Tampa. Tight checking game in the first. Yanni Gourde scores shorthanded early in the second. That's the only goal. No shots for 8.5 minutes for either team at the start of the third. So both teams are locking it down, but some big shot blocks late by the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they hold on. The Islanders so close. Varlamov held the minute, but I don't think the Islanders' defensive-minded play was able to stop Tampa here. And I think Tampa is going to be facing a more similar situation against Montreal. So we'll see what happens then. And this is also it for Nassau Coliseum because they lost Game 7. And the beer can throwing stuff, it's difficult. That's probably one of the last memories that people will remember about Nassau Coliseum. And Tampa, they played it really well. But the Islanders, they're resilient, winning in Game 6 after losing 8-0. Didn't let that get to him. Barry Trotz, I have to give full credit to him. He's a great coach. He should stay around. He has some very good coaching tactics. His good timeouts. Gotta say, I love that. And John Cooper and the Tampa Bay Lightning are going back to the Stanley Cup Finals for the back-to-back years. Amazing for them. We'll see how they match up against Montreal in just a second. Now let's move on to the injuries. Not much to say here. Tampa, Kucherov might not be 100%, but I am not going to say that he's injured for sure. Probably going to play. He'll have some rest. And for Montreal, Jake Evans will still be out for Montreal. And of course, not an injury here, but the head coach Dominic Ducharme will be sidelined for the first bit of the series. I don't think he'll be back for Game 1 or Game 2. We'll see about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about officiating here before we move on and finish this recap, and before we preview the Stanley Cup Finals. Officiating, you can see all these calls. You all remember these ones, like Braden Point getting pushed in to Varlamov, McNabb punching Suzuki, and then Chris Lee just standing there behind. The state-of-the-art technology for the reviews. Look at the state-of-the-art technology over there. And Corey Perry getting high-sticked by Marcia So. So, missed calls. You can't blame the refs because, sure, you can blame the refs, but you know that happens every single year, missed calls. But the blatant missed calls, like the high stick, the punch to the head, it's like they're choosing to call some things and some other things they just don't call. The consistency has been very terrible. I think that's the thing that most people are ticked off about, is why does, like for the first half of the game, especially in the Vegas and Montreal series in Game 3, Chris Lee and just not calling anything. And then suddenly just a very small little infraction, they call that. So it's hard to know the standard of the officiating, and players will be hard pressed and they'll complain a lot when that happens, and that really hurts the game and it takes away from the talent in the hockey game itself. Cross-checking, I don't know if that even exists anymore. I don't see many cross-checking penalties, and that's such a gray area that I think needs to be addressed. Suspensions, we all know how heated it's been with player safety and all. That's not really about officiating. I think they've been doing better with who they're fining and who they're suspending. And I always hope that they do more video reviews. Like, I don't understand why some plays are just not reviewable. I get that you don't review every single play, but for important ones like double minors, like the high sticking on Corey Perry, that should be easily being reviewed. But the call on the ice being no penalty and they can't reverse that, I think is rather unfair a little bit. So officiating, I think they have to reflect on that a little bit. I hope that does improve in the Stanley Cup Finals and there won't be any controversy regarding that, because that wouldn't be very fun for either team or for any fan base. I think the most important thing here, I'm not going to cheer for any one team especially, but officiating, it makes it, I want to see a fair result. That's all I'm going to say. Alright, let's move on here. Some takeaways from this week. 40 out of 79 games so far were 1-goal games, more than half of them. 26 games went to OT. The record is 28, so the record might easily be broken here. Habs scoring first in 13 of 17 games, so don't sleep on them. Habs 11-0 and scoring 2+ goals, 9-0 and scoring 3+ goals, so Tampa Bay needs to shut down Montreal, and so does Montreal has to shut down Tampa. 4 coaches since September for the Habs, and they're doing well. It's like they've gone through so much. Officiating, I discussed that earlier. Vegas, over 17 on the power play in the series. Habs killing 30 straight penalties. So my round 3 predictions here, I got one right, one wrong. At the Habs prediction I got right, but the Tampa Bay and the Islanders, Tampa Bay was able to win that in 7, so far I am 4 for 14 on predictions. A horrendous year for me for predictions. I predicted too many higher seeds, and it's not working out for me. I did get one right this time. And my finals prediction here is going to be Habs in 6. We're going to go over a brief little overview of the Stanley Cup Finals here. And here we go. Tampa, Montreal, Stanley Cup Finals. What can get better than this? Canadian team going to the Stanley Cup Finals first time in 10 years since Vancouver did it in 2011. For Tampa, they're back, looking to be repeat winners. And they're high-flying Tampa Bay Lightning, but Montreal high-flying as well. We have lots to talk about. So, I'm not going to go over my bracket anymore here because that's very unnecessary to talk about at this point. Alright, so Tampa, Montreal, Game 1 is Monday, June 28th in Tampa at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. for you on the West Coast. Alright, so Tampa Bay, 36-17-3, 75 points. They beat Florida in 6 games, Carolina in 5, Islanders in 7 games, 12-6 record. They've scored 58 goals along 37. Points leaders, Kucherov, 27 points, leading the league. Points, 14 goals, 20 points. He scored in 9 of his last 10 games. Alex Killorn, 17 points. Stamkos, 17 points. Victor Hedman, 16 points. Goaltending, Vasilevsky, 12-6, 936 save percentage. Power play, 37.7%. They're second in the league, but obviously Colorado is number 1. But so technically they're first because Colorado was eliminated. Penalty killing is 4th in the league, 83%, and they have no notable injuries. For Montreal, 59 points in the regular season, beating Toronto in 7 games, sweeping Winnipeg, and beating Vegas in 6 games, 12-5 record. They've scored 43 goals, allowing 37 against. Points leaders, Tyler Toffoli, 14 points. Nick Suzuki, 13 points. Cole Caulfield, 9 points. Corey Perry, 9 points. Yoel Armia, 8 points. Carey Price, 934 save percentage. It's going to be a goaltending battle between Vasilevsky and Carey Price. Power play 20.9%, 7th in the league. That has improved. Penalty killing 93.5%, 1st in the league. I haven't seen this good of a penalty killing team in a long time. Well, granted, I haven't watched hockey for very long. It's basically just my 10th year of watching hockey. And yeah, I've watched it since I was a kid. And even though I'm still technically one right now, I've watched hockey for a long time. And I haven't seen this good of a penalty killing team in ages. Notable injuries, Jake Evans, I believe he's still out with a concussion. And of course, Dominic Ducharme not here to coach, but that's not an injury, is it? Alright, so let's talk about some storylines here before we go over our prediction. So, it's late June. Normally around this time of year, we'll be doing the NHL draft, we'll be re-signing players, free agency on the horizon, but this year, it's a special year. We have a Stanley Cup final to look forward to heading into July. So, the Lightning are back for the second year in a row and eyeing a title defense after they won in the Edmonton bubble last September, and this time they'll have a chance to win in front of their home fans. And about 15,000 people allowed in Amalie Arena. And the series will shift to Game 3 to La Belle Province, the Montreal Canadiens' La Centre Belle. And before I do talk about Montreal, what a story Montreal's been winning against Vegas on St. Jean-Baptiste Day. That's certainly a great story for sure. And Montreal fans are going to get some 1993 vibes through this underdog run. Everything on the line now. Let's see how they match up. So, the playoff team stats here, you can see the stats here, but I'll read some more stats out for you right now. Montreal, 2.53 goals for per game, 2.18 goals against per game, 20.9 power play percentage, 93.5 penalty killing. Tampa, 3.22 goals for per game, 2.06 goals against per game, and the power play 37.7, penalty killing 83. So Tampa Bay, very much an offensive team. Big storyline here is Canada has its first Stanley Cup finalist in a decade, as the Montreal Canadiens claimed the Clarence Campbell Bowl for the first time in team history. What a strange year. But unlike the President's Trophy Vancouver Canucks that last represented the North in the final, this year's Montreal Canadiens are underdogs. 18th in the league, 16th ranked playoff team. They overcame a 3-1 series deficit, and they've drawn comparisons to other teams that went on unexpected runs, like the LA Kings in 2012. And these Habs are similar to them. It's not quite the Kings. 17th in goals per game. A very low-scoring team, similar to the LA Kings, but not quite. But you get the idea. And some comparisons, so some fun comparisons are the winking goaltenders, remember from 1993, and now in 2021, Patrick Roy, Carey Price. It's a thing. So the Canadiens are going to experience a different foe, and this foe will be the toughest for sure. The Lightning, defending champs, in their near-perfect mix of everything you could want, from quickness and puck skills to patience to physical play, brains, and brawn. The Lightning have a chance to be the first repeat winners since the Penguins in 2016 and 2017. But Montreal has morphed into something no one could imagine. And they were trailing 3-1 against Toronto in first round, but now they've beaten Winnipeg, they've beaten Vegas, and the Lightning are as tough as ever. Top 5 in goals, goals against, power play, and penalty killing in the regular season. But we're not here to talk about regular season, are we? But even in the playoffs, Tampa has been top 5 in virtually every stat. And Vasilevsky is more than capable of going save for save with Carey Price, and that may be something the other goaltenders have not been able to match. This will be the best match in goaltending so far in these playoffs, with how these two have been playing. The big question for each team is Montreal, can they erase the opposition stars? Can they frustrate Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, all those players? We know that Philip Deneau has earned a lot of shine for his role in frustrating the likes of Austin Matthews, Blake Wheeler, Mark Stone. He'll be another central figure in trying to stop that top six for Tampa, which, unlike the Golden Knights, have scored at a torrid rate. Every step of the way, Montreal has faced an opponent that has lost a key center. John Tavares, Mark Scheifele, Chandler Stevenson, all gone at some point in the series. So, this time, Tampa will have centers Point, Cirelli, Gordon, Johnson, all healthy. I'm not predicting anything, but could that little pattern keep going? I'm not wishing any harm on Tampa. Brayden Point scored a goal in 9 straight games until being kept off the board in Game 7 by the Islanders, so one shy of tying Reggie Leach's all-time record. But that doesn't take away from how many goals Brayden Point has scored. And they have Kucherov, Stamkos, and Killorn, all there and high-scoring players, that's for sure. Even against the New York Islanders, they were able to score at a torrid rate. The Montreal penalty killing hasn't allowed a goal since Game 4 against Toronto, and now they meet a deadly power play at 37.7%. Now, for Tampa, I'm going to say... Okay, actually, before I move on here, I'm going to go over my prediction, which is Montreal in 6 games. Now, before I go over my reasoning for that, let me go over the chances I think that both teams have to win here. Tampa, will they try to disturb Price in the crease? Golden Knights got far too complacent, and they just really took shots from the perimeter, even though they got a lot of shots. The Habs' presence of sizable defensemen really shut them down. Now, a job here for Pat Maroon, Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman. Maybe they should make Price a little uncomfortable. Maybe tapping away at his pads, disturbing him. For Montreal, I think their path to winning here is definitely going to be penalty killing and defensive play. Now, have the Montreal Canadiens played a defensively minded game? I guess they have. What they've shown against the Golden Knights, definitely more than the Islanders could have shown. Because the Islanders, they played very well defensively, but they didn't score any goals. They scored 7 goals in 7 games. For Montreal, though, no, they haven't been shut out very much. The Habs have scored. They've scored first, and when they do, they haven't looked back. But so has Tampa. Tampa, when they score the first goal, they don't look back either. I think both teams have 2 losses. I think they're like 11-2 when they score first. I think both of the teams are that good. So, my prediction, Montreal in 6 games, is going to be controversial. But I think the goaltending battle will be very, very close. Who scores first will be a big thing. And a grit versus talent discussion. Tampa has not faced much adversity at all, to be honest. Injuries, they've been healthy all the time. Montreal has been plagued with injuries, with players playing through injuries, the coach being sidelined, Jake Evans being sent to concussion protocol and missed a lot of games. Jeff Petrie's eyes, it looked like Montreal is just persevering even though they face so much adversity. So it's hard to see them bowing down here. But of course Tampa will be the favorite, and I don't doubt that. Habs penalty killing. I think if they do what they did against Vegas, I don't expect them to do that as good as they did against Vegas, because Vegas' power play wasn't good to begin with. But Tampa is a good power play, so we'll see. The Habs have gone through so much, and they look like they're rolling. And yes, it's an upset. I don't say that this is not an upset. This is not a possibly completely stupid pick. But I have faith in these Montreal Canadiens, and I do think they have a very solid chance in stopping Tampa. Tampa, don't underestimate the Montreal Canadiens, because they have been great. They put up defensive clinics, and if Montreal continues that, I can't see Tampa beating them. But on the other hand, if Tampa breaks through, obviously, then Montreal will say goodbye. I think the first few games will really determine if Montreal has what it takes to play with the defending champions, or will Tampa roll over Montreal? We'll really see for sure on Monday. So that's going to be it for my preview here. And yeah, it's going to be some great hockey. So thanks for watching, and smash the like button if you enjoyed it. And the playoff hockey coming to a close in 2 weeks. Boy, I'll miss it. So I'll be continue to monitoring hockey, and this has been an amazing season so far, and I hope it continues. Officiating, I hope it's good. Whatever the result is, I just hope it's a fair one. Alright, so that's going to be it from me. Montreal for the win, guys. Les Habitants. I hope they can win it. Bon chance to Montreal and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, yeah, you heard my preview there from the Stanley Cup Finals, and Montreal in 6. Yeah. I'm crazy, but I like the chaos. Let me know what you think of my prediction there, and we'll see you next week for another playoff recap on July 4th. It's going to be a shorter one for sure, because I only have one matchup to recap. So we have 2 more weeks of recapping to do, so 2 more videos. One on July 4th and the last one on July 11th. Or maybe the last one might be a little earlier, depending on when the series ends. So it's been some great hockey, and I hope it continues. Hope it's fair. Hope it's fun. At this point, I cannot imagine anyone's brackets are not shattered. Matchups have been kind of expected, but at the same time somewhat unexpected in how it got here. Montreal coming out of the North Division, not as bad as we thought they would be, that's for sure. And Tampa, will they repeat as Cup champions again? We'll see. So we'll see you next week. We'll see what happens. We'll go over this matchup here. We'll go over storylines. So we'll go get some memes for you. Get some fun stuff. We'll talk about the news. Any trades that happens. Yeah. Final turns of the Stanley Cup Finals. Stanley Cup playoffs. I'll miss it. But until next time, we'll see you later. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend.